Hello, everyone. Well, just adjust. Once in a while, I gotta adjust my camera. Whew. All right, I look like a little bit of a mess, but it is what it is. All right, so we're gonna power on. All right. Whenever you watch these videos, I'm sure you can tell what time of day I'm doing these. The messier I look, the earlier in the day it is. Yes, but we gotta power on. All right, so you guys, my name is Gabrielle Crichlow, and you are here at Hot Topic. So let me tell you what this show is about. So this is the show where we like to have real talk about real things. We like to focus on education, empowerment, entrepreneurship. What else? We've done episodes on homeschooling. We've done episodes on resiliency, near death experience, bullying, right? So we like to cover a lot of different topics in a variety of ways. And we like to explore these topics from an educational point of view as we are covered by as a covered by as we are a part of a step ahead tutoring services. So let's get right into it. I am excited to this for this show. I'm looking forward to this show because I have a repeat topic. I love it when I have repeat topics, and I'm particularly looking forward to this repeat topic because it is about tutoring. That's right. So as uh, an owner of a tutoring company, I get to chat it up with another owner of another tutoring company. So I love it when I could just talk shop with someone in the industry. So this is a great opportunity for that to happen. So without further ado, let me tell you the topic of this show. The topic of the show is Talking with Tutors, part 6. I can't believe we actually made it to part 6. That's awesome. So, this is the 6th time that we are doing this topic, Talking with Tutors. So, any chance I get to talk about the tutoring industry and all that with a colleague, I look forward to that. So, Talking with Tutors, part 6, that is the topic for today. And let me tell you who my guest is. My guest is Zoie Hoffman. And let me tell you, she founded her company, Hoffman Tutoring Group, which is an online tutoring company that helps K to 8th grade students get the support they need by matching them with highly qualified educators. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, so I can't wait to get started. So let's do it. I'm going to go ahead and bring her to the stage. Hi, Zoie. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
Good. So, when I have an opportunity to talk to another person in the industry, we get to talk shop and all that. I definitely look forward to doing that.
Yeah, I'm really excited for our conversation. It's always nice to chat with somebody else who understands the biz.
Yeah. So let's start with the basic question. How long have you been in business and what got you started?
Yeah, so I am coming up on having been in the tutoring business for almost 7 years. I got my start really small. My husband is active duty military, so we had to move away from our home state to a state where I was not certified. And I knew we would be very quickly moving away from that state. So doing licensure just like didn't seem like a good use of my time. So instead, I started a tutoring company and I started seeing kids in the local area. And from that, I realized that that is really where my passion was helping kids one on one. So when it was time for us to move again, I taught myself how to do online tutoring, which was very new at the time, so that I could continue my relationships with my students. And from that came Hoffman Tutoring Group. So eventually, I realized there was a pretty big need for online tutoring services, even though they were new. And so we started to bring on different tutors who could help with different subjects, because I specialized in math. And so I brought on some other math tutors and some reading tutors and some study skills tutors so that we could, help each kid with their specific needs and, match them based on their personality style and who they would mesh with the best.
Awesome, awesome. So now, so have you, so you were in a position where you had to move around a lot. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, and I still do actually. Um, which has made this business model of online tutoring the best fit for me.
Right, right. So because of the certain lifestyle that you had, it's sort of like really, you weren't really in the position to have a, I don't want to say the word stable. You weren't in a position to have a stationary job because
Exactly.
because of you had to move around a lot because your husband is in the military. So um so you resorted to, so now I'm thinking of what I want to ask you. So now what turned you to tutoring though? Because there's just so much you can do remotely. So why tutoring specifically?
Yeah. So I had just received my undergraduate degree in education, and I really wanted to keep those skills up. And at that time, there weren't a whole lot of remote opportunities when it came to education. We see a lot more of those now, right? With more schools going online, more services going online, but there wasn't, too much that I could do remotely or that was portable, that was education related. And so my focus was mostly on I want to use these skills that I just learned and I want to connect with kids. And so tutoring seemed like, a no brainer at that point. It took me a while to get my first student. But after that, I realized that that was, probably the best decision for me was to, stay in the education space.
Tell us about your first student.
Um, I got my first couple of students just like by posting on Craigslist and Facebook, like, hey, I'm a tutor and I want to work with kids. And my first couple of students were really sweet kids who needed reading help, which is not what I do anymore. But it was so fun to see them grow and get help that they weren't getting at school. And so they have like a special little place in my heart. Those first couple in-person kiddos that I worked with. I was in Pensacola, Florida at the time.
Oh, so you did what pretty much Eddie on virtual tutor is doing. They're using Facebook and and Craigslist and to find students. So I'm sure that was amazing when you're like, oh my God, I got someone actually reached out to me. So take us through that moment when you got that response that someone reached out to you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it. I mean, it was a while ago, right? But I remember being super excited because when you first start a company or a business or you're just trying to provide a service, I feel like there's a lot of hustling involved to try to get those first few clients. And so I was excited to have clients, excited to help kids, and I felt like I could do the work that I had been wanting to do, which was educating. So I felt like I kind of came alive a little bit at that point because I, didn't have any place to put my passion.
Right, your passion being education because that's what you studied.
Exactly. Mhm.
So, and this was your master's, you said?
My undergrad. So I got my
Undergrad.
undergrad right
Okay.
before I started, and then later on, so in 2019, I then graduated with my master's somewhere else.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us about the students. So what were the students' difficulties? What did you notice about the student?
Those first few students, I felt like their difficulties, I was seeing a lot of kids who needed reading help, who needed, or like a combination of reading and math help. And in our specific district, those kids just like weren't getting the support that they needed. So they needed someone to give them individualized help, to get that intensive intervention so that they could catch up. Um, with reading and math and things like that. So my first few students, it was a lot of, figuring out where they were and just trying to create some interventions to help them get where they needed to go.
Oh, okay. And how long did you work with them?
I'm trying to remember how long I worked with my first few students. Those first couple that I brought on, probably, a year, a year and a half. Eventually, I did have to move away, and some of my students didn't come with me as far as online tutoring is concerned. Um,
Mm.
and it is a little bit difficult to remember because I've had so many students since then. I was trying to count, I realized the other day that like I don't even know if I could count um, how many students I would have to really think and list out names and all of that.
So many to count. Oh God, yeah. So how are you finding your students now?
Now it's a little bit different than it was in the beginning. Like I said, in the beginning, I was like posting on Craigslist and um, in neighborhood groups, and I was going door to door and like putting like the little door hangers on people's doors.
Yeah.
Um, but now we get a lot of our students through word of mouth or Google search. I was able to build that up over time, my website over time. And then some people still do come from social media. But a lot of people come to us because they've heard of us through one of our other students or they've met me at some event. And like they have a family member that has used us. So a lot of it is word of mouth now.
Yeah, I find that I find that as well when it comes to my students. Like a lot
Hmm.
of it is word of mouth, I would say. And then it's like word of mouth and then social media. So I think particularly Facebook. So when it comes to where we get our students, I find that those are the two that stand out the most.
And do you feel like I feel like that's because of the credibility that comes there, right? Like through the word of mouth specifically, and then also people can get to know you over time when it comes to social media.
Yeah, so like the word of mouth, because so it's because most some of the people that I personally worked with um, as a tutor, they came from another company, so I kind of just carry them over to my company, um, and then they told their friends about me, and then their friends found me, and then the people that I found on like Craigslist. I didn't even do Facebook yet. I think it was just Craigslist, and then they told their friends, and then came social media and reaching out to schools. But um, I think like the more that I work with people, like if they like what I do, then they'll tell their friends and bring their friends along. So and then it builds up from there, and it definitely is a time game. So the more
Yeah,
you work with someone.
you have to plant those seeds and then you have to wait for them to grow.
Yeah, it's definitely a long time game because the more, and then I tend to work with the same people for many years, like because they come back to me, so which is also pretty cool. So the longer you work with people, and the more they tell their friends about you.
Yeah, I find the same thing as far as people who work with us. A lot of times they come back later or there's a sibling that needs something. So yeah, I've known some families for a very long time, which is fun and rewarding.
It really is, especially, I think I've had a couple students that the company as a whole has worked with for probably like 4 or 5 years now.
Mhm.
So it's definitely pretty, and watching the child grow up is pretty cool.
I know. Yeah, that's one of my favorite types of clients is the long-term ones that we get to see grow up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now, do you have any success stories you want to share?
Success, what kind of success stories?
Something like, watching a long-term student like graduate, or someone that was on the brink of failing and all of a sudden they turn their life around. Any success stories like that?
So, I won't tell it in a specific sense, but there have been a few preteen girls. And this is what really got me into specializing in math. So I personally never felt like I was good at math, especially as a kid and a preteen and a teenager. I was still in kind of that area where they were telling girls that girls just aren't like wired for math, right? I don't know if you've ever heard that trope. Um, and so I actually realized that I'm fine at math. It was nothing to do with me. It was everything to do with how I was being taught.
Yeah,
Um, so I've had a few teen girls that come into my business and I work with and not only work with them on their math but their confidence. Um, and just seeing them blossom into confident math learners has been amazing. And so seeing them get into high school and be in math classes that are challenging and being confident in themselves and what they can do, um, huge success story, right? And it's happened with a few students. It's not just one, and that is my favorite thing about what I do. Especially, I've had one student in particular that um, wasn't really considering college before we started working together, and then she started to realize that she can do a lot of really big things. And so she was then thinking about college and what she might want to be able to do for college. Um, so those are my very favorite success stories is those girls that just really blossom once they realize that they can do difficult math.
absolutely. I know my when it comes to math, because I think math is also well, it's not a strength of mine, so I probably could go up to like eighth or ninth grade
Mhm.
confidently. But um, I remember one student. He was, I mean, he technically wasn't long term, but the family still keeps in touch with me. I've had one student. I think I had him when he was 8 years old. High energy, always running around. It wasn't ADHD. He was just wild,
Yeah,
and um, and just trying to like get him to focus. Like, okay, let's I gotta redirect him constantly. Let's get back to the problem. Let's get back to this. Let's get back to that. Let's keep writing. And I think my constant, I guess, redirection and okay, let's get back to this. Let's get back to this. I guess somehow that sunk in somewhere because um I mean it was probably only like a year I worked with him,
mhm.
and we kind of fell off after that, and maybe I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 years later, the mom reaches out to me on Facebook saying, "Hey, thank you so much for what you did for him, and now he's doing well on his regents, and now he wants to go to law school, and now he wants to go to." I was like, "What?
That is
Oh my
amazing.
god, yeah, that is amazing," and just changing the direction of his life, and just makes me think about what tutoring actually does for
Yeah,
this.
that's like that's one of the reasons I love what we do is because you also never know like what impact you're having on kids. And sometimes it just takes that one person that says, I know you can do this, and I'm going to help you get the tools to get there. For just a short period of time can really change things.
Right. You may not be working with them long, but even just like you said earlier, planting those seeds.
Hmm.
And all it takes is a few seeds, and just to make things happen, to turn someone's life around.
Yeah, it's really cool feeling.
It is, yeah, yeah. So you've been online since the beginning, online tutoring since the beginning. It wasn't like you were affected by the pandemic. You've been doing this. So, well, let's talk about the pandemic since I brought it up. Have you found that the pandemic has affected your business in any way?
That's a really hard question because now it's stretched on for so long, right? Um,
Yeah.
I felt fortunate that we had started much earlier than the pandemic because it wasn't like I was trying to scramble to get my services online. They were already online. Um, at first, I felt like the pandemic maybe was affecting us poorly because people were so tired of online learning. They did not want their kid to sit and do more online learning. Um, even through my assurances that it's 100% different than what they were doing in like their online classes because it's one-on-one, it's very focused. But now we're seeing a little bit of the side effects of the online learning during the pandemic. So I'm seeing a lot more people asking about tutoring, um, looking to come into our practice because now we're realizing what kids have missed. And I think to some extent, schools are expecting kids to just kind of catch up, depending on where you are. And so it's changed. It's been kind of you know, a roller coaster. What about you?
Well, I was doing well, not just I, but the my company as a whole. We were strictly in person, so we
Hmm.
didn't even consider online. I mean, I was thinking about it because I was talking to other tutors and just curious about like how does that work online? How does that even work
Hmm.
on platform? And I was just like, let me just stick to the in person. I'm gonna stick to what I know. And then boom, the pandemic hit and everything canceled. And it just went downhill for me. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah.
And and I think someone talked about Zoom, and this is when Zoom really started to blow up.
Right.
And people were just like Zoom this and Zoom that and Zoom, 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 Zoomy, Zoom, Zoom. And I was like, okay, let me try it out and try it for myself. So I downloaded Zoom and I played around with it. I was like, oh, I actually like this. This isn't so bad, And with the whiteboard, I was like, oh, okay, I think we could play with this. And so, um, and I figured out like the inner how to use Zoom and the codes and the
Hmm.
links and stuff. And I was contacting all my parents, like, we're not doing in person right now because we're in New York.
Right.
So New York is like no one's going anywhere. Whatever, like it's literally the rules were like whatever you got to do it online. so
Right.
so I was contacting parents like we're on Zoom, we're on Google Hangouts, get on Zoom, get on Google Hangouts, and I was telling my other tutors as well like let's do this Zoom thing, and some of them got on board, some of them fell away unfortunately, but I even had some tutors that left the company as well. So it was it was a transition. I definitely had to transition online, and I had to do my interviews online and testing online. So it's definitely a transition, a forced transition, unfortunately, but and and getting used to the Zoom life now. It's actually now now we've integrated the model, so now we're we're slowly doing in person again, slowly, very slowly. But now that we've integrated the two models, so now we actually are blossoming in the online model, and with Zoom and Google Hangouts, and so now we're growing in it, and now we're developing it, and now there's a lot more virtual students now. So, and then like a lot of my tutors are discovering how easy it is to tutor online because it works with their schedule now.
Mhm.
So it's less commute, and it's oh, they could just stay at home and work
Right.
remotely, So there's a lot more self-care, particularly when it comes to virtual tutoring. So
Right. And
um
that's part of the other part that I'm passionate about with online tutoring in our company is giving caregivers a place to use their skills. So like we have a lot of moms of young kids. I'm a mom of young kids. That doing that commute and getting somewhere is not always feasible, but tutoring when your kids are down for a nap or in bed for the night is. Um, which is a cool, super cool thing, and less carbon in the air.
that is true. That is true. That is true, right? And especially people were just stuck at home. Cars weren't no, there's no need to drive a car around, right?
Mhm.
So of course, there's less car exhaust in the air and all that. Um, and but I felt like more people were on the internet, so the internet was slower in a
Yeah.
way. So it's like now we had to purchase like more gigabytes and stuff. So I think like the internet and cable industry definitely
Oh my goodness, yeah.
banked off of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we were forced to transition into online learning, and we're slowly going back to in person. But I think the virtual is so a part of my company now that it's like we're
Right.
never going back.
Yeah.
And now like because I tutor as well, and I'm like, and I invested in the virtual part. I got like a um I can hold it up, but I was like, let me get a digital pad. So I invested in that.
Oh, that's cool.
So I invested in that.
I want one of
And
those.
I've yeah, I'll send you the link. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I would love that.
it's changed my life. Oh my god. So yeah, I've definitely invested in that. So and doing virtual workshops and podcasting, and it's been a journey.
Yeah. But I mean, this is the future. This is where we're going, I feel like, and it's not going away anytime soon, for sure. So the investments are worth it, in my opinion. But I'm biased because my all my stuff is online.
Yeah. So what do you use? What have you before the pandemic, what system were you using to conduct your sessions?
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of did not change anything during the pandemic. So what we were doing before is what we were doing during and after. Um, so we did Zoom, and so we conduct everything on Zoom. That I feel like it helps us be able to do all the interactive stuff. Um, so we have been doing that the whole time, and I like that I can have unique Zoom links for each of my tutors so then I can put it into the reminder emails that go out automatically in our system. And so there's never like a what link am I using? What's going on? Um, it's just the same every time, and it hardly ever fails. Um, what was hot? It wasn't hard, but like Zoom transitioned over to more of a paid model after the pandemic, um,
Mhm.
which like good for them. Uh,
They banked off of the pandemic as well.
They did. Because we run 60-minute sessions, it was like it cuts off now at 45. And so I went ahead and invested in like a big girl Zoom account
Yeah.
for everyone. So I bought the licenses for everyone. And but it's worth it. Like I don't have a problem paying into companies that are giving me value, and helping me make money and change lives. Um,
Mm,
but that was really the only big change. We do have some tutors who prefer Google Meets, and I'm like, sure, do that. Um, and yeah, like nothing really changed besides just the increased popularity of Zoom. And so now too, like when we onboard new students, they have experience with the platform, whereas before we would somehow times have to teach them how to use it.
yeah. I find that too. I think um because I think it speaks to the population that we serve, and that a lot of the people that I speak to, it's like they're still trying to figure out Zoom. So um so they're like, I'm like, get on Zoom and here's the link, so I guess it kind of speaks to my population. So the people that you see, it's sort of like they already know it because that's what they have to do for school.
Right. So they were having to do that a lot for school. And so now they understand. And I have to do a lot less convincing as well that kids can navigate the system, right? Because before, a lot
Mhm.
of people doubted, they're like, well, my kid can never, they're not going to be able to sit still, or they're not going to be able to navigate through those tech things. And I'm like, you'll be surprised. Um, and so now I feel like people are more open to online services, whereas before they were a little bit more skeptical.
Yeah, yeah. So so it's something interesting that you said with the pandemic, that you were already online, but because the kids were that they had more online in their lives because of the online school, you actually saw a dip
Hmm.
um, in 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 um, in clients, because I guess parents were like, internet, just checked out with the internet, and there's too much computer, too much online. So it's interesting that you would think they would be used to the online nature, but because there was so much of it with the schools, and it actually went down.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I would chat with people and they would be like, oh, yeah, I don't think I can do more of that. Which I can sympathize with. Like, as a parent, you're like, I cannot facilitate one more online thing. um, So now that schools are back in, I feel like people are a little less burnt out on that.
Mm, yeah. So it's an interesting time that we went through. The pandemic has changed all of our lives.
I know. And yeah, sometimes I forget. I'm like, wait, all of that happened? It was a wild time.
So now you have tutors. You have people on staff.
Hmm. They're not
So
on staff, so most of our tutors are contractors, so they kind of have more control over what they do. Um, but yes, we use tutors that specialize in different areas.
and how does the hiring process work? Because I'm sure uh, you know, like other people with tutoring companies, I'm sure they want to know how,
Yeah,
what are your hiring tips and tricks?
that's something that I'm trying to perfect. It's hard because it's one of those things where it's like I don't want to bring somebody on when before I have somebody for them to tutor, right?
Mhm.
Um, so it's a lot of kind of trying to capitalize on people I already know, or like people will come to me and say, "Hey, I would really like to work with you." So I've gotten really lucky with a lot of that because people will kind of seek us out and say like, "Hey, how do I, you know, get connected to your company?" I have done some things on like Facebook or LinkedIn where you list a job. Um, and that is interesting because you get a lot of responses, but then not a whole lot of people who are actually qualified. Um, Not to say that their intention is not good. Um, the biggest advice I would give if someone is like looking to do that is to get really clear on what you want before you start looking. Um,
Mhm.
and then to also like be very explicit with what you are wanting this person to, what their qualifications are going to be and what they're going to actually have to be able to do. Um, so on our website we have like a listing that says like these are the things you need to have, and then these are the things that you would probably be expected to do within what you would be contracting for. um, Personally, we only use people who are educators, so that means you have like a degree in education or some extensive experience in education. So that like I try to make that very explicit, um, to help me when I'm trying to bring on someone new.
Yeah, it's that makes sense. I think I'm also having the same struggles with my hiring because it's such an ebb and flow in my company, and it's like I don't want to have all these tutors and no work, and even
Mhm.
though, and unfortunately I've had a couple instances where I had tutors but there were no jobs available and so they left. um and that's the constant fear that I have, is that I don't want to have all these tutors and no work, but then I don't want to have all this work and no tutors, because I've also experienced that as
Yeah,
well. People just came in like a wave out of the blue, and I'm like, I don't have anybody. I got to refer you elsewhere. And so it's like, I don't want to be in a position to have to refer out,
right.
but it's like damned if I do, damned if I don't. And so
I know.
it's a constant it's a constant fear that I have. And so it's sort of like I gotta just, you know, bite the bullet. I just do something, maybe
Right.
not like 20 tutors, maybe try to get the next 5 or 6, let's keep it small. And even though, I mean, that's what I constantly try to tell myself, but it's a constant struggle for me
Yeah.
as well. But
That's
I
I
definitely
mean,
need to hire though. But yeah.
there's like that sweet spot, right? And it's you're hardly ever there. Um, with, you know, having like having the students coming in and having the tutors there to meet them. um Usually it's more of one than the other, and it just depends on the time. And I have the same issue. um what I've done in the past too has been, um 'cause since they are contractors and they have like other work that they're doing, saying like, "Hey, do you want to wait in the wings basically until I have someone who I think would be a good fit for you, and then we'll kind of do all the official stuff." um that way they're not like sitting there expecting. um but I have some people in the queue that are interested, if that makes sense. We also don't have like I try to not we don't have a lot of tutors. I try to keep it pretty manageable just because I like to be able to like personally talk to everybody pretty regularly.
Mm. So you don't want like 1,000 tutors,
No.
2,000 tutors?
I I call us a boutique tutoring company. So my goal is never to like get to center level. Um Although I know that that's something that people do, and I think that's really cool. But just like with my lifestyle right now, um, I like more of the boutique style of like being able to know everybody um, who is working with our company and everybody who works with our company.
Okay, so you keep it pretty small.
Yeah.
So now, do you have the concern about with profits? So then, how do you profit then? If you, I don't know
I
if you want to
do,
talk about that.
I don't. It's an interesting, that's an interesting topic for me because um, not everyone thinks about it the way that I think about it, in that I'm trying to make profits while also making just the life that I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so sometimes those two things don't go together.
True.
um, so sometimes I might take a hit in the profits department just so that I can have like more time doing what I want to do. Whether that is professionally, like, having more great conversations with people, or um, exploring something that I'm interested in, or it's like spending more time with my kids, um, and maybe not making as much money, or like having less stress,
Yeah.
but not making as much money. Um, so I'm working on it. I mean, and I'm also like, I think this year, I'm trying to expand like our products, uh, so that there's also like passive things going on as well. So,
Hmm.
um, and I personally am tutoring a lot more than I used to, just because I like to do it, and that is more profitable, obviously.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. So now, sh- are you comfortable talking about your rates? How much do you charge?
Yeah, because I mean that's public information on our website.
Mhm.
Um, and because in my philosophy on that too is I don't like going on websites and not being able to figure out how much the thing costs. Especially when it comes to my kids, I'm like, just tell me what the thing costs. I don't want to email you if I can't afford it. Um, and so we have lower rates than most companies do. And that's another thing when it comes to profitability, it's a hard thing because I would like to be profitable, but I would also not like to price us out of the people who really need help.
Mhm.
And so we do packages. The package with the least amount, so it's 4 tutoring sessions, it costs $50 a tutoring session. Our package with 12 sessions, it costs 45 a session. And there's one in
All right.
between. There's one package that's like 8, and it's kind of between those two numbers.
So the lowest you charge is 45.
Correct.
Okay, that's not bad. That's right around where I'm at. See, I have the opposite view. I want people to ask me what the rate is. so
Yeah.
um so I don't actually publish the rates on my site. So it's, I mean, if you go to like my intake form, there's a range.
Hmm.
So I actually do it as a range. So depending on what you want, I charge more or I charge less.
Right.
But I actually have I actually want people to reach out and ask how much do you charge. Because it's a range, because I have to assess like what is it exactly that you want. So it's more of a conversation. So I actually have a different view on that. Um,
I think that's, I mean, and two, like if that it involves that conversation where you're trying to suss out what they need, I don't think there's any, and you have a range. So if somebody
right,
goes to your site and they realize, oh, that range is not what I'm looking for, then they can move on. Um, I
right,
just have found it because it sounds like mine is a little bit more like, this is what you're paying versus you kind of offer a variety of options. Is that
right. Because I also have a minimum. So
mhm.
so the minimum for virtual I said is is 50,
Mhm.
50 an hour. Um, minimum for in person is 60 an hour. So I do have like minimum. So
Right.
if you don't fit within at least the minimum, then you um, then we wouldn't be the best company for you.
Right.
so so we do have minimums ranges. So in a way it does have I forgot what it's called, but it's like a phenomenon of psychology where you could actually self-select the type of clients that you want,
Yes.
based on the criteria that you're looking for. And it helps too that I also see the benefit of publishing your rates because people don't ask questions. So it's sort of, and you get the ones that will pay it.
Right.
So
And it's
I,
less time spent
yeah,
on my end talking to people, answering emails, um, which is profit in itself, right? Less time spent
yeah,
doing the admin work.
yeah. I see the benefit of that as well. You will only get the people that will pay that.
Mhm.
So the people that won't pay that, they will go elsewhere.
Exactly.
Hence
Exactly.
self-selection, right?
And I know like you and I have been in the same kind of tutoring circle for a long time.
Yeah,
Um and there is like I don't know if anybody's watching and they're kind of starting to to start out is like the less you charge, probably the more of a pain your clients are going to be. So you do have to price yourself accordingly.
ex, ex, elaborate. I know I got to keep an eye on the time, but elaborate on that further. What do you mean
S-
by that?
Like, so if you are not charging what you're worth, people are going to come into your company and use your service that might need your service, but they aren't valuing that service appropriately, if that makes sense. So then the more you charge, the more you get the clients that align with what you're trying to do.
Right. Because I guess logically, yeah, because the more money that I'm forking out, the more that I expect from you.
The less that I'm canceling last minute, the less
Yeah.
that I'm really valuing this service because I'm paying for it. And you and I kind of have the same philosophy of like, I don't want to price myself out of a lot of people's budgets, um, because I know kids are expensive and getting the help that you're desperate for shouldn't, put you in a bad position. But at the same time, it's like I feel like you do eventually find that sweet spot where you're like, okay, I'm charging enough that I'm not having all of these problems as far as cancellations and people not paying or whatever. And, I'm not charging so much that I feel like I'm, not getting enough clients or whatever.
Yeah, and I think I'm I'm real, and I've been in the game for 9 years, and I think and it's now that I'm starting to realize that because before I was charging low, I was doing 25 an hour.
Mhm.
Um, well, the lowest was 25 an hour. Sometimes I went down to 20 an hour. And it was in person. So
Right. You're
imagine
actually having
that.
to go to see those people.
Yeah. And it was 25, it was 30. Um, so I was undercharging, and I realized that, it's for me to, I mean, some clients are still kind of there. They kind of grandfathered into
Mhm.
it, but I realized that it's taking too much time to commute to them, and I'm putting, even with the virtual clients, it's it's getting a time to meet with them and finding resources and figuring out what it is that they need help with, and what do I do when they have a physical book and it's like, well, we're online. Okay, take a picture and
Right.
send it to me. Like there's a lot of things that go into it, and investing in virtual resources, which is another thing I found myself doing now, is investing in virtual resources that'll do the same, that'll help them with what they're trying to learn. And so there's a lot more investing that I have to do on the virtual end of it, to that I have to compensate for with my rate, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And I found that the rates were not really doing that. So, and
Right.
it's only kind of now that I'm realizing that, and I do think, although I've worked with, I have worked with vendors as well that'll pay for someone, and but it's free to that person, and so it's still like, so that's a whole other can of worms. But I think,
Right.
but even just looking at the clients that are getting tutoring for free versus the ones that are paying for it, the ones that are paying for it take it more seriously, I
Mhm.
think. And then the more that they're paying for it, the more seriously that they're taking it.
Right.
And I
It's a
do,
hard balancing act to
it
do, I
is.
feel like. Um, but it's worth talking about because I feel like, you know, part of what helped me when I was raising my rates was talking to some of some tutors like you and that we know, that can validate, like, yes, like you do need to do this and it's going to be hard to raise but it's worth it.
Yeah, and it's also like, I know there's tutors that are charging like 100 an hour, 120 an hour, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to be that high, um, but I think it's like you said, you don't want to price yourself too high where you exclude a lot of people, but you don't want to price
Mhm.
yourself too low where you're not valuing your worth. And so it's that middle ground, you know, that it sounds like we're trying to both
Yeah.
look for.
And it's hard too with inflation now.
Yeah.
Everything costs more, but no one's getting paid more. And so that's another thing I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Mm, yeah. But I think where you are is reasonable. 45, 50.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. I think so. Because that's where I'm at, around there.
Yeah. Depending on
Yeah.
how things keep going with pricing and stuff, we may have to bump ourselves $5 higher at some point to compensate for some of the higher. Everything costs more now.
Yeah. That's always a fear too, because if it's between, if there's a choice between tutoring and food, you know,
Right. Well, and that's like, especially when you have other people on your team, you want to make sure that you are paying them competitively,
that's
um,
another thing too.
so that they can provide for their families. Um, so that, it all goes into that. It's one thing when it's just you, but when you have other people to consider, you want to do right
That's
by them
another
as
thing.
well.
That's another thing, because now you have to factor in your contractors, and that's a whole other thing.
Mhm.
So how did you, and we'll end on this point, and then it looks like we're going to go into overtime. So if you have to go, let me know. But how do you determine how you pay your tutors? What's the split, if you want to share that?
So it's a range. It depends on, their experience, how confident they are, what they've been doing. Um, I so trying to figure out what I'm going to say. We typically do a range of $25 to $30 a tutoring session, um, based on experience, and then obviously because I'm paying for software, you know, insurance, like all of that. and then putting in time to procure clients. Um, and so that's kind of where we're sitting right now. Um, and then, you know, it depends on, we usually have a pretty good conversation when somebody comes on as far as compensation is concerned. I want to make sure everybody feels valued for, you know, what they what they can achieve with their students.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's around where I'm at in terms of what I pay my contractors. I used to do a 60-40 split.
Mhm.
Um and I think that some other companies, I think Ant has the same model, but then I realized that like I wanted to factor in like credit card companies and like the fees that they're taking out. So I'm like, okay, I think it might be a little bit high on the tutoring.
Yeah.
So I dropped it down a little bit. So now it's 55-45 split. Um, but I think because of the higher rates that I'm charging the clients, it's sort of like compensating for that. So now it's so the tutors are probably getting like 27 to like 33 an hour.
Mhm.
So around there, which is actually, you know, I think it's pretty good. So in terms of the pay rate for
Yeah.
tutors.
And yeah, it's hard to do those numbers, especially like I'm not like a business person. Um, I'm a teacher that then founded a business, but two, like it's nice if you are profitable, you can do things for the people who work with you. Um, so sometimes we do like little gift cards or my favorite thing currently is to send them donors choose gift cards and they can like support different classrooms and things like that, or Starbucks gift cards, Target gift cards. Um,
Yeah, the rewards are good too. I have referral rewards. I send little. I don't do gift. Well, yeah, referral rewards. Like if someone referred, like a parent referred someone to me,
mhm.
they can get a little gift card. Um, I do this for all clients, but I send little gifts as well, like
Yeah,
calendars, pens, things like that. I think that helps too.
yeah. I this year I'm thinking about sending everybody. I send my tutors like a separate gift. They get like a big gift, and then I'm gonna buy some of those calm strips and put those in everybody's Christmas card because those look really
A
cool.
calm strip? What is that?
It's like a textured piece of like almost like tape, and you can stick it on your computer or whatever, and then you can feel it, and then I think you can peel it off and like put it back on. It's like a fidget kind of thing.
Oh, like putty?
No, it's like a sticker, and
Okay.
it just has like texture on it. I'll
Oh,
send you a
okay.
link. They're really cool looking.
Okay. And you just like play with it?
Mhm.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
they have ones that you can like trace to like remind you how to breathe. They look like a really cool tool.
Huh. Huh. Interesting. Okay. All right. Let's start to wind things down.
Yeah.
So, um, do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience?
I don't I don't know if I do. Just, it depends on who's watching, right? If you're a tutor, just keep hustling. It'll come. It's a long game, just like we talked about.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're a parent, just know that your kid does deserve to get a good education. And um, it's connections like these that can make it happen. So, yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. This was super fun.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. All right, let me get up your banner. All right, you guys. So it is now promo time. So we're all in the tutoring game. We're all colleagues. So listen, we're all in the same game together, right? So I am sharing her information right now. It is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. So if you are looking for tutoring services, you could go to, well, what age group do you serve? What subjects?
We serve currently K through 8 in reading, writing, math, and some study skills.
All right, there you go. All right, so if you are looking for, and you're just on, and you're strictly online. So if
100%
you're looking,
online. Yes,
there we go. All right, so listen, I know we're both tutoring companies, but like I said, we're all in the game together. There's more than enough
exactly.
students to go around. So if you are looking for tutoring services, virtual tutoring, K through 8, reading, writing, math, and study skills, her website, you can go to www.hoffmantutoringgroup.com. She is also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So Instagram, the handle is Hoffman with two F's, Hoffman.tutoring.group. And on Facebook, it is Hoffman Tutoring. And LinkedIn profile is Zoie Hoffman. So I encourage you to find her on all of her social media accounts and follow her all over social media. And if you are looking for those tutoring services, reach out to her. The website again is www.hoffmantutoringgroup.com. And she also has a free homework a free homework help ebook. You can find that on www.hoffmantutoringgroup.com/homework. Tell us about the free homework help ebook.
Yeah, so it's a small little free ebook that if your child is struggling with homework time or feel like you're fighting all the time at homework, it has some really actionable things that you can try with your child. It has email templates for if you need to email the teacher about homework, or if you didn't do the homework that night because it was getting late and you value sleep. Like all of that is in there, so you can find it on our website.
All right, there you go. So that is a free resource for you guys watching right now. I encourage you to take advantage of that. And the website again is www.hoffmantutoringgroup.com/homework. If you've missed any of this, don't worry. All this information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen if you are watching this on video. If you are listening to this on audio, do not worry. All of this information is in the description. So, however, you are taking in this episode, the information is available. It is at your fingertips. Excuse me. All right. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. This was an awesome experience.
Thanks for having me. I'm really glad we got to have this conversation.
Yeah, we had some real talk today. All right, so I'm going to put you backstage now. And it is just you and me, guys. So we are over time, but that is okay. When you're having fun, you just want the party to keep going. But there comes a point where the party's got to stop. All right, so we have reached the conclusion of yet another episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for joining me on this long ride. I feel like we've done a bazillion episodes, but thank you again for joining us on this ride. Whether you've been with us all this time or you're new to the game, thank you for joining us today on Hot Topics. So, as a reminder, Hot Topics is a production of our tutoring company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So, if you have another tutoring resource. So you have Hoffman Group, which is one tutoring resource. We are also another tutoring resource, and I will share that with you. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can also email us, success@astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, Eventbrite, and YouTube. I'm trying to remember, like, what am I on again? Okay, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, and there's another one I just forgot. But we are on multiple social media platforms, so I encourage you to follow us as well on all of our social media platforms. Stay in touch with us as well. And I will also share our phone number in case you want to call us. Our phone number is 347-762-2838. So you can also give us a call or text us if you looking for tutoring services as well. And I also want to encourage you guys to leave your feedback about this episode. I want to know what you thought about this episode today. So if you are watching this on video, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about this episode today. I want all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, negative, positive, whatever it is. Let us know your thoughts, recommendations, everything. Let us know your thoughts. Just drop a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread. If you are watching this on video, let us know your feedback. If you are listening to this on audio, same thing. Drop a note, drop a comment, give us a star, give us a rating. Uh, Let us know your thoughts about the episode for today, whether on video or audio. Just drop a note, drop a comment, drop a star, give us a rating. Let us know what you thought about this episode today. I definitely will appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, Hot Topics has a text blast. I encourage you to get on it so you will know anything and everything that has to do with Hot Topics, live episodes, audio releases, everything. I encourage you to get on the text blast. All you have to do is text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975. Again, just text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975. You could also reach out to us via email if you're not able to get on the list through the phone number. But primarily, one more time, text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975. So today you have 2 tutoring resources, and I encourage you to reach out to both of us. Right? So there's no excuse. If you're looking for tutoring in any way, shape, or form, you have 2 tutoring resources that you got today that you can check out. All right, you guys, that is it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to you joining us at the next episode. Thank you again. Thank you guys once again, and I am signing off.